The world needs more education, sciences, and culture to find sustainable solutions to the challenges of today, to build peace, combat climate change, and end extreme poverty. We must focus on innovation, creativity, and new ideas. We need to share knowledge so as to move forward. Every day, UNESCO trains and supports researchers, teachers, journalists, and artists to inform and educate, open our minds, and foster respect. Since 1945, UNESCO has acted as a laboratory of ideas, imagining tomorrow's world, building peace in the minds of men and women. Today, our mission is more relevant than ever, helping 260 million out-of-school children and young people get an education and teaching skills to nearly 800 million adults worldwide, 2/3 of them women, who can neither read nor write. We need to act now to protect human rights and dignity. The United Nations has defined 17 goals to achieve sustainable development by 2030. To succeed, we must invest in the forces that drive sustainable change. Train 70 million new teachers and ensure everybody can receive quality education. Ensure the transmission of heritage to new generations and embrace cultural diversity so that we may understand and respect one another. Defend freedom of expression and access to information. Strengthen scientific cooperation to protect our planet and its ocean. To achieve these pressing goals, we need to build bridges and stronger partnerships with governments, businesses, civil society, and citizens. Join us today in turning these goals into reality. Together, let's mobilize our collective intelligence and bring out the best in our shared humanity.
It's a mirror to us of what's happening in our society. L'urgence, c'est un problème avec l'intelligence artificielle. Par exemple, on sait que les intelligences artificielles vont faire du marketing ciblé en fonction du genre. Les annonces d'emploi, des emplois dans les champs scientifiques et technologiques vont être moins ciblés les femmes. Et donc, on voit apparaître sur l'écran moins d'annonces dans ces champs-là. Donc, vous voyez, là, il y a vraiment ça part à ce bord-là, puisque ce sont des hommes qui conçoivent l'intelligence artificielle dans le monde d'aujourd'hui et qui les conçoivent à destination des hommes qui vont continuer à développer cette intelligence artificielle. Il y a donc vraiment aujourd'hui une importance à ouvrir le champ de l'intelligence artificielle aux femmes, mais aussi à ouvrir la même l'intelligence artificielle parce qu'elle se trouve pluraliste.
An example of voice assistants are very subservient. Always try to make themselves small and whereas a male voice is much more powerful and strong. There are really deeply rooted constraints.
They should not be the machine to change the world uniformly. They can work to reinforce the movement. So we can respect the variety of approaches. In Japan, we have concepts we respect some silence approach. AI can support the power it's difficult to explain Japanese culture to foreign people, but they can support to translate the concept by giving concrete examples. Of course, human beings can do that, but AI has much data, so AI technology can work to enhance the explanation of it. Or moreover, we can develop a new local concept, taking possible ideas from the machine. For example, machines can support. Maybe we think this is important, which I didn't notice yet. We have carried that an example research of artificial intelligence technology to enhance creative activities of local people. All ladies and gentlemen gathered in the community in the center. They created poems expressing the old memories. The machine helped them to valorize the old memories. The machine gave possible vocabularies to explain the old memories.
One of the most important ethical issues in relation to AI that we're facing now is to better understand where lies responsibility. So when AI starts to recommend decisions or even take decisions on our behalf, I think in the end we are always responsible, but then who is the we? I mean, is it the owner of the user of the software? Is it the people who created the software? So we're creating these new kinds of interactions, and I think what we need to do is to investigate how to shape these technologies, AI technologies, such that they allow us to be able to take that responsibility. If the technology is very transparent, it's like this black box that we don't know what's going on, we cannot interact with it. I mean, then I don't know, if I'm the user of the technology, how can I take responsibility for something that does something that I cannot even influence or understand? Investigating and explainable AI is of course mentioned often, but I think it's not only about explaining a habit sometimes of saying, hey, I'm just the engineer, I just created technology, it's not my responsibility what then happens in society. So I think changing this narrative is, I think, absolutely crucial. As an engineer, you are responsible for the technology that we create.
We need to have societal discussions in media, on TV, in newspapers. We need a discussion for addressing how AI might change our lives and how we might also it's a critical. If we don't ask ethical questions from science or from the risk, there's only the companies that ask the questions. The companies that design the systems to make money with them, basically. Of course, there are a lot of good companies who also really want to make the world a better place. That's not self-evident. Of course, there's always also a big economic interest.
We have to create regulations or law that helps shape the context in which we can develop these technologies. Because it doesn't always make business sense to do the right thing. So we need some kind of framework to help guide the development of these technologies.
Qu'est-ce qui se passerait si la communauté internationale ne se saisissait pas de la question de l'intelligence artificielle? Ce qui se passe aujourd'hui, quelques cultures qui sont en train de développer leur intelligence artificielle, qui détient une forme de monopole et qui insufflent une certaine vision issue de leur propre culture au sein de l'intelligence artificielle. Alors après, on risque de penser que puisque c'est dans la machine, puisque c'est dans la boîte, c'est forcément. Physique, au niveau des systèmes de référence culturelle, au niveau des manières de réfléchir telle ou telle chose.
The key of the story of Frankenstein was that Frankenstein failed to take responsibility for his monster. He was so afraid of it. He walked away, the monster went into the world, didn't know how to behave, felt not really sort of recognized, mind which he didn't get, etc. Then he became a monster. But the lesson we can learn from the Frankenstein story is that you should not leave your technologies to their own devices. You should take responsibility not only for making the technology, but also for introducing it into society. You should educate it, you should teach it. For AI, this is exactly the same situation. And so what we do with AI is that we develop technologies that do things that are beyond our field of influence. So we cannot tell them what to do. They learn, they develop patterns of interaction that cannot be reduced to what we put into them. So the only way to deal with these systems is to educate them and to hold themselves accountable for what they do. But then they need help. If we do not do that, then we end up in the same situation as with Frankenstein, leaving them to themselves. First they think, wow, we made a beautiful thing, and then become afraid that they might take over the world. And it's too late. We should do it now. We should learn to educate others before we take over. And I see in a lot of discussions we still separate ethics and humans from technologies in the labs where we make them. That's about the human subject of the objects. And I believe that they are totally intertwined. We are technological beings and we need to take responsibility. And that's what I feel as a mission when we announced to make sure that we don't miss all the opportunities that we have to connect ethics and technology in a world where we are believing far away, far back.
education, science. The world needs more education, sciences, and culture to find sustainable solutions to the challenges of today, to build peace, combat climate change, and end extreme poverty. We must focus on innovation, creativity, and new ideas. We need to share knowledge so as to move forward. Every day, UNESCO trains and supports researchers, teachers, journalists, and artists to inform and educate, open our minds, and foster respect. Since 1945, UNESCO has acted as a laboratory of ideas, imagining tomorrow's world, building peace in the minds of men and women. Today, our mission is more relevant than ever. Helping 260 million out-of-school children and young people get an education and teaching skills to nearly 800 million adults worldwide, 2/3 of them women who can neither read nor write. We need to act now to protect human rights and dignity. The United Nations has defined 17 goals to achieve sustainable development by 2030. To succeed, we must invest in the forces that drive sustainable change. Train 70 million new teachers and ensure everybody can receive quality education. Ensure the transmission of heritage to new generations and embrace cultural diversity so that we may understand and respect one another. Defend freedom of expression and access to information. Strengthen scientific cooperation to protect our planet and its ocean. To achieve these pressing goals, we need to build bridges and stronger partnerships with governments, businesses, civil society and citizens. Join us today in turning these goals into reality. Together, let's mobilize our collective intelligence and bring out the best in our shared humanity.
Control the governments, we have to invest. Upgrade the government, control the governments, we have to invest. Upgrade the government, we have to give energy. To create developments, we have to invest. To create development, we have to give energy to the country where we live. And Carlos Cazzi, ENI CEO. Create a sustainable environment, a sustainable peace for our activity and also for the country where we work. It's one of the main important continents for us, area of development. We invest 50% of our budget in Africa. So all together we can solve, we can help the development of these countries. I think that is a wonderful opportunity to work together in a complete way to deliver this important result. Bonjour, bienvenue à Transmissão, Bonjour, bienvenue à Transmissão, multimédia. Ça fait une dizaine d'années que ça existe et nous avons fait une vision il n'y a pas longtemps. Je vais découvrir le livre.
C'est vraiment cool ici avec un outil, c'est vraiment voir comme beaucoup de choses.
Tout ça permet l'émergence de contenus africains et de création de qualité sur la scène artistique internationale. L'objectif de CAPTOSAN, c'était de croiser les pratiques numériques aux pratiques artistiques traditionnelles aussi, que sont la musique, le théâtre, la danse, et de permettre aux artistes africains de pouvoir allier tradition et modernité.
Et je pense que c'est une opportunité incroyable que les médias prennent le métier nous offrent pour essayer de mieux maîtriser cette notion de développement.
Donc moi, ce qui me manque aujourd'hui, particulièrement au Sénégal, c'est que la culture, on la conçoit vraiment comme une industrie. Donc pour qu'il y ait cette industrie, il manque un peu cette dimension de tout ce qui tourne autour des artistes. Moi, je suis manager d'artistes, je suis dans l'administration. Donc il faut qu'il y ait des critiques d'art, il faut qu'il y ait des administrateurs, des managers, il faut qu'il y ait des journalistes culturels.
CAPTOSAN a bénéficié entre 2 millions de plus du FIDC, ce qui nous a permis de développer de nombreux ateliers dans le domaine de l'expression, croisement des disciplines.
Parce que là, il y a un fossé entre le nord et le sud. Et là, ces gens structurent un peu tout ça, ils nous aident vraiment à découvrir ce que qu'on voit. Surtout concernant les mythes
Au Sénégal, on dit que c'est une chance énorme, c'est une culture, mine de rien, ça a quand même un impact. C'est-à-dire que les jeunes sont toujours à la recherche de la création. C'est un peu comme une création.
La culture est, pour moi, c'est un sorte de développement.
Grâce au FIDC et à la convention 2005 de l'UNESCO, qui a permis à de nombreux jeunes artistes de sortir enrichis et performants dans le secteur de l'emploi et de la création sénégalaise.
La culture a cette dimension économique. La culture engage les gens au même titre que l'économie, au même titre que la politique, au même titre. Donc c'est pas un monde à part. Les gens ils travaillent, ils gagnent leur vie et puis voilà.
Le talent existe, la vocation existe, l'envie, l'énergie existe. Ce qui manque, c'est justement cette touche institutionnelle qui devrait encadrer et orienter, pas au sens dictatorial, mais simplement pour la veille des droits et des moyens.
L'idée aujourd'hui, c'est d'aller encore plus loin, on a exposé, mais c'est au-delà dans ces
volonté des décideurs pour toute cette volonté de promouvoir la culture congolaise.
C'est le moment de parler du Fonds international pour la diversité culturelle qui a, à côté du gouvernement congolais, a amené le ministère en charge de la culture à avoir un plan stratégique.
Avoir le plan stratégique et un plan décennal national qui a été mis en place pour la mise en œuvre de cette politique.
Le plan décennal de mise en œuvre de la politique culturelle est en fait un baromètre de la culture congolaise. Parce que pendant longtemps, nous avons monté sur le gouvernement et orienté l'action culturelle dans des résultats mesurables et palpables.
Une volonté de faire sortir un peu le Togo de son niveau, de faire connaître le Togo sur la scène internationale.
Concernant la FIDC, je pourrais dire que à partir de la formation qu'on a faite, la formation de l'organisation africaine, je me sens qu'on fait bien de la confiance en moi.
Une dynamique sur le monde qui se renforce également par la mise en place de fonds d'aide à la culture pour mieux accompagner les artistes et producteurs culturels, la diversité des expressions culturelles.
Maintenant, nous signalons tout le pays. On fait une proposition publique. Il y a une organisation de la culture, de l'art.
Cinématographique, les deux, c'est bon. Nous avons des jeux de...
Oui, c'est encore mieux au niveau de la partie.
Le Togolais est optimiste, c'est surtout dans le domaine de la culture. Et il y a des indicateurs qui montrent que le secteur progresse.
Parce que la culture permet aussi de créer l'emploi. C'est un secteur aujourd'hui qui est très dynamique au Togo. Vous connaissez FIDC parce que le projet court et ça fait que ça évolue en Afrique.
Nous sommes au début d'une boucle pour les années futures et que nous devons rester en valeur.
Le développement de l'image positive.
Welcome to the Partners Forum. We'll be leaving very soon. Please, can you take your place? Thank you very much.
啊？可以吗？
No seu coração está escolhendo ficar no trabalho.
of the opening session which took place in Luanda City. I will not discuss more about the history, how we come up. It was a very long way with African Union as well as the member states, namely the Angolan government. A long way where we have felt satisfied due to being here to share in the first Partners Forum. When UNESCO decided to make part in their strategic plans, so it is a priority. For those one that has good memories, we were roughly at the very early 90s at the moment of democratic transitions with many changes which gave the hopes to the continent that should be open to the world and to experience the development. Later, we have defined through the operational strategies, the challenges that we still face, which is the African continent, for different programs and activities that will be presented by colleagues from UNESCO as well as the member states. We hope that we'd like to call your attention, and before thanking the partners who will join the main intervention axis in Africa, we define it as challenge, called as a positive dynamism, which is translated into the youth. We have a youth without job, without future, and then economic growth that we have experienced the last decade. 12 or 14 countries has in their economic growth. So some African countries advantages which allowed the country to demographic increase linked to social transformation, urbanization, the host of campaigns, internal displacement, conflict, the extremist groups. We have been experiencing manifestation for last decades. For this be to think and together think about UNESCO and the African Union, which are partners, how we can contribute in order to make these dynamisms positive for African continent. Again, as experts of development on the climate change, in order to make it true, so many young people as well as women and young women, many other people that has been experiencing or living in this African continent. So the paradox, we have the poverties and the poverties of the population. So this poverty is translated into bad education, which education do not have quality, the lack of basic sanitation, officials without salaries. These are difficulties that our people has been experiencing. So this demographic and the young rich people, a median class, which represent roughly 20% of GDP. How can we capitalize these challenges? As it was mentioned in the early morning, this technological dynamism, Africa has more startups in comparison to the world. So young people are very creative. So we need to boost the creative industry, contemporary arts in all domains as well. Africa is now a stage of many these activities. Africa presents statistics on this kind of development. So we, to say, in the big country, in big cities like Dakar, Abidjan, we can make money transfer through technology with new developed programs, so we can do it. So early morning were mentioned in terms of the changes, adaptation through science and technology, and we need to give the young people the means. Africa has lost the first, second, and third technological revolution, so now we can or not lose this fourth technological revolution. This is a fight of UNESCO, and to make the inequality produced in the last technological revolution should not replicate again in this phase. So again, we will discuss the last dynamic. So the chairperson of African Unions needs to make the regional integration, which the partners represent 1 billion of consumers in the market, without barriers, borders. So Africa must represent 1 billion consumers without passport, without visas, without economic barriers, as well as without custom rates or taxes. So it will be done with the signing of a continental agreement on free trade. So this will be the strong point of this integration. Again, there will such as Great Lakes, regions like West Africa, or in Horn of Africa. So I'd like to conclude, we are now after the time to say that we are all participating, so UNESCO on these great reflections on African continent. So we need to find new models, such as what the new sociologist says, to find new paradigms for African continents. Models that will include the local tradition, models that have to do with the urbanizations, the model deal with migration, diasporas, with Afro descendants from America, which are attending this forum of partners. So they need to have deep understanding of Africa. To conclude, all these items that we'll present contribute in terms of education, culture, science with African unions in order to be able to give a positive answer to these challenges. Thank you, all partners. Thank you for coming. And I would not like to forget, I will mention some partners such as Leni, African Bank of Development, which are supporting us, Chad, Lakes. There are countries that signed an agreement with Angola. We have a cooperation agreement with Morocco's Equatorial Guinea. We have South Korea, and we have many other representatives of Uruguay delegation, Saudi Arabia. They are all together with us. So the feeling of this forum is a feeling of complicity, a feeling that we share, because this is for our future. We have the same dream for our African continent. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Me disait que l'ambassade.
The ambassador of Gabon has anything to say. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm taking the role as the president of the group of UNESCO. I'm the ambassador of UNESCO from Gabon in UNESCO. Mr. Rodolfo Matoko, General Manager of the Development Fund, ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador, accredited UNESCO, dear colleagues, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, allow me on behalf of the African group from the United Nations Organization for Science and Culture to take the role and thank His Excellency President of the Republic of Angola to accommodate in Angola, this event in particular. It's a sign of a movement in order to build peace and development in Africa. I address it to the of Angola for the to accommodate this event, this meeting, this gathering, as the first gathering of partners. It's as a continuation of the 2010 event, in order to, so that in Africa specifically we can build peace and development in the continent. I'd like to say today that on my behalf and representing all the ambassadors in UNESCO, accredited in UNESCO, I'd like to thank our partner who are here and provide our witness and their witness with their commitment with Africa and with our head of states, which are providing the comfort to us, ladies and gentlemen. In this forum, UNESCO would like to present the plan of development of projects of women journalists, the first against traffic in Israel, the terrorism, the entrepreneurship and youth, all these initiatives and all these actions are also under the initiative of the African Union from 2021, putting together all against unemployment and the social engagement. We are together with the African Union for Peace, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, the idea of a peace culture was generated for the first time in the international arena in 1981 in Yamoussoukro, where all the final declaration or statement in order to contribute a new vision for peace, for development of culture, peace of culture, based on the values, universal value of life, freedom, justice, solidarity, tolerance of the human rights, and the equality between genders. 30 years after the adoption of the Yamoussoukro Declaration about the peace in the spirit of human being, we are here together, gathering, with you and our partners in order to implement the actions, common actions, innovative common action, and build a sort of sustainable peace in the continent. The member states of UNESCO, we can only be encouraged and proud because in these treat under the constitutional act of this forum, understanding that in the human spirit we can only build peace. So, dear partners, find here the expression of our acknowledgement and gratitude, and our development partners, namely UNESCO, which under its noble willing has expressed the references on values, inclusive, multilateral, intellectually, and ethic. So in order to end my addressing, allow me to congratulate the Angolan people and its president, Mr. Jean Lourenço, for his involvement in favor of peace in the African continent, and encourage him all success for this biennale. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now ask to Mr. Clement Ongena, Prime Minister, Minister of Education of Equatorial Guinea, to join us, and also Usman, the General Director of Bureau of Central African of BAD, as well as Mr. Ininyong, Chairperson of the Strategic Committee of UNESCO. Thank you. The three gentlemen, please, could you join to the podium? Thank you.
Je vais vous laisser, Monsieur Onguené, prendre.
Now we'll hand over to Mr. Ongin in order to realize the commitment of your country with UNESCO to this partners forum. Excellency, ambassadors, and the diplomatic missions and international bodies present in this act, distinguished representative of national and international activities, representative of civil society, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is for me a great honor and a motive of high satisfaction taking the floor in this important forum. In first place, to make His Excellency, the General Director of UNESCO, or the invitation to come and participate in this partners forum for Biennale of Luanda, the Pan-African Culture and Peace. On behalf of a delegation that is accompanying me, we thanks the government of Angola for the welcome, the warm welcome, the accommodation, and all elements. Ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me to transmit to this forum fraternity, I wish all the best to this meeting. His Excellency Ongeman, and head of the government of Ecuador, is committed with the program Culture of Peace by the UNESCO, created in 1989, and has as a main topics education for peace, human rights and democracy, the fight against poverty and defense, the cultural diversity, dialogue, intercultural, as well as the prevention of conflicts and consolidation of peace. And the government of the Equatorial Guinea, here in the preamble of the Constitution of UNESCO, which proclaimed that the war is just for the men, and the men that should stand up the bulwark. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been working with UNESCO in order to strengthen our educational system as a fundamental in order to put out the social and the cultural problems, aiming to speed up the development, this ODO4 at the level of education in order to participate in the implementation of the Agenda 2063 adopted by African Union. In this context, the government of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea had created the University Afro-American of Central Africa in order to serve as a center of academic excellency, scientific, for and international, in order to strengthen the capacities in the various areas of science, technology, and innovation, as well as to strengthen the cooperation, regional cooperation, as well as in international. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the cooperation signed in June 2018 between UNESCO and the Republic of Equatorial Guinea for a period of 2018-2022, it is envisaged technical assistance of UNESCO for the University Afro-American of Central Africa. We thank the technical assistance of UNESCO as a guarantee of a candidate for exit of this project. The participation of UNESCO is also a key element that favor the internationalization and through the international position, which will benefit the University Afro-American University of Africa Central on the networks and the forums of UNESCO. It is also important to highlight that UNESCO and Equatorial Guinea have been cooperating in different projects, such as in this kind of international prize for Equatorial Guinea for science of life, which recognize the project and the activities of individuals, institutions, other entities, and non-NGOs in the field of research, science of life, as well as many other areas of science, technology, information and communication. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, this forum is for our delegation, is a good opportunity to inform and sensitize at the national and international level the opportunities that the Afro-American University offer for them Central Africa to the students, professors, researchers, for all African students and the international communities. We hope that the delegation that take part in this forum, so please take the responsibility to make the advertisement in their own countries. We take also this opportunity to inform all participants that if will be presented in this forum a presentation on Central Africa University details. Thank you very much.
On va écouter Monsieur Guzman Doré, directeur général du bureau régional pour l'Afrique centrale.
We are going to listen from Mr. Guzman, director of Central Africa for data.
Senhoras e senhores, em nome da minha instituição,
English.
Very prior engagement. I'm very pleased and honored to have the privilege to deliver this short address, a remark to you at this partner forum in the framework of the Biennial of Luanda for the culture of peace. Let me begin by saying what has been touched upon this morning, the link between culture, peace, and development. Between these two UNESCO with a relationship that began in June 1969. But over the past 4 years, clearly, we have developed a rich and fruitful exchange, and the work accomplished has allowed us to strongly support a common goal to develop the culture of peace and achieve the African Development High Five, which I do not need to spell here. In this collaborative work, the African Development Bank has highly appreciated UNESCO's unique approach combining culture and peace, as well as its multi-sectoral and interdisciplinary approach of global issues pertaining to education, science, communication, and information. Indeed, this is why the African Development Bank, in a particular region that I cover as a Director General, which is the Lake Chad region, we had developed a program to promote, to bring development. To bring peace in the area affected by Boko Haram insurgency. So I would like to highlight that project. It's a flagship project which has allowed us to build the resilience of community to natural habitat. What we are trying to do in strengthening this is to build on this achievement so that we can upscale this kind of intervention project in other parts of Africa through impactful projects. Indeed, recently, looking forward in this cooperation, we have to strengthen education system and health promotion, particularly focus on youth and women capacity building and empowerment. Just to be brief, let me give you where the future cooperation, how is it structured? It's structured around 3 main pillars. The pillar 1 is the issue of employment, entrepreneurship, and youth, entailing activities such as technical and vocational education and training. Pillar 2 is about digital involvement of youth and women. And pillar 3 of that cooperation will be the management of natural resources, green economy. This is where Biopalt, which I just talked about, I didn't go through it, but tomorrow at a sad event we'll be able to showcase what Biopalt has achieved. But the experience of Biopalt is going to serve as a catalyst for the development of broader cooperation axes at the regional level. Again, in this cooperation, UNESCO, during its General Assembly in 2015, managed to introduce an initiative called AfriBio Fund. This fund is meant for UNESCO to really try to bring durable development in those biospheres. We have about 80 or 79 such biosphere reserves on the continent. I would like to say here that I am pleased on behalf of my management to say that the African Development Bank is committed to support UNESCO in the establishment of this regional reserve called AfriBiosphere Fund to allow UNESCO to implement this big project on the benefits of the people of the continent. Well, you can have really the announcement of specific amount will not be paid here, but our president, who is currently in Egypt, is expected to bring the financial contribution to light at his next meeting with the Director General of UNESCO. All I can guarantee you today on behalf of the management is that this has been taken into account by the bank. In fact, the message I'm asked to deliver today is that because African Development Bank is committed to this AfriBio Fund, we are calling upon other donors, as we do oftentimes in the context of leveraging our resources, to contribute and support this very important initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to finish by saying that it is a common goal to ensure a brighter future for the next generation, give them opportunity and alternative, help them against the manipulation of arms and terrorism, and immunize them most importantly against poverty. It is our obligation to work together, and this forum today here in Rwanda is an excellent example of joint collaborative partnership for the development of our continent. That's the view from the African Development Bank. I thank you for listening.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Mr.
Senior Yamiani, President of Strategic Commission.
Mandarin. 表示祝贺，并在现场朗读他的发言。
Bon après-midi à tous. Je viens de Hong Kong, Chine. Permettez-moi de représenter notre président et CEO de Phoenix Télévision, Liu Changle, et d'exprimer toutes ses félicitations à ce forum. Je me permets de lire ici, sur place, la lettre.
We'd like to thanks to this forum. I'm now reading the letter of His Excellency Mr. President, distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen.
新闻摄制组团队已经数百次的踏上了非洲的土。
C'est là que je viens.
Once again, to say that this is my second time coming to Luanda. Our team has traveled throughout the African continent.
Depuis la création de Phoenix Télévision pendant 23 ans, nous menons.
Since the creation of our television 23 years ago, we have developed in Africa the peace progression. We have created the ties with China TV and Africa. This has been there for ages. In 2003, when many Chinese, when Chinese arrived in Africa, the Chinese TV from 800 languages and dialects, and we managed to broadcast it in our TV. We managed to televise the African culture, and after that there was a very good positive reaction from African citizens, African people, and the Chinese viewers as well. In 2004, at the occasion of 600th anniversary of maritime expedition of Almirant Dondo, there was a ship known as Phoenix, which left China and arrived in Kenya after 8 months of voyage. And there was also it was covered by Phoenix TV to report historical data between China and Africa and its civilization. And after that, the Phoenix TV continue creating different programs, TV programs, targeting the history of Chinese company in the world, particularly in Africa, to collect information, needed information about Chinese company, and follow the progress of this company in Africa, information to African Chinese company in Africa. Talking about myself, I have a personal feeling about Africa. I went around the 54 African countries. Love history, Phoenix TV and Africa. So this will continue for. Two years ago in Paris, I had the honor to have a meeting with the general director, and we signed the strategic contract between UNESCO and China TV for the 5 years. So I'd like to thank UNESCO and its general manager to give me this opportunity. So Africa is under our priority, and it was under the priority of our meeting as well. After signing the contract, the Phoenix TV team with the Department of UNESCO, we started broadcasting immediately the preparation of the project for Africa, and with the support of UNESCO and Phoenix TV, in order for other African TVs related to science, technology, and culture domains. For instance, Phoenix TV is aiming to mobilize all Chinese entities in the world, create educative center in the world, in the countries, to create funds for African projects, life, the maritime voyage, and with the main aim to reinforce the relationship between Africa and China. projects of cooperation between Phoenix TV and the UNESCO are there due to the strength ties between China and Africa, which are in place, and to a profound personal appreciation for African people, which are kind, and Africa is the starting of humanity, and the starting and the source of all the things and creation of our world. So all the progress in Africa, and we want to help the development of Africa. I'm with the help of the UNESCO General Manager and with the support of the African government, all this project and the cooperation plan, UNESCO and Phoenix TV are going to be successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now let's start our first panel. Let's now invite Mr. Thomas, with permanent delegate from People Republic of China, His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Mbalawi, ambassador and the permanent delegate of Saudi Arabia, close to UNESCO. Mr. Dominique Roland, Director of the Center of Arts, and Stefan, please could you join us? He's from literacy centers of United States. Invite with to talk about culture of peace, culture and peace. We'd like to hear about experiences of European Union work here in Africa, the capacity of all we have to promote the culture of peace in the continent, which is going in different situations, not only in the conflicts, but also the issue of terrorism, of immigrants which are killed in South Africa, conflicts and tensions. Is the African continent ready to have this culture of peace? Thank you for giving the role.
Queria apresentar alguns pontos da posição da União Europeia para promover paz através cultural aqui no continente africano.
Continent. When UNESCO is a long-time partners, we have been over 40 in right now regarding to the support of the process of peace through the culture. So we have having two main projects. The first project has to do with rehabilitation of the region, which is being implemented by UNESCO, and it is now used to rehabilitating the reset, destroy civil war. We also have been supporting it is also important here program with so PALOP, Portuguese-speaking country, to create an African Lusophone country in order to gather and deals with the rules which can promote the economy. On the other hand, and allow me at the very beginning, it is important the culture of social cohesion, civil cohesion on the community affected by conflict. It is the culture, it's really important. It has been playing a very important role. We are now supporting Angola, the continent, the culture pose a great challenge. We can speak the official language because the culture overcome all barriers and all borders. Thank you very much. How have you been dealing with work with UNESCO? Unfortunately, we do not have yet a concrete example, but in African continent, mainly not only in the culture as well as education. In the culture, we have to provide 470 million euro for a program to achieve the strategic goals. Education, inclusive education for all. UNESCO is the first partners close to UNICEF. For example, the illiteracy program is now in a place. Please, can you just tell us?
Ethiopia. The research was conducted through Tufts University, MIT, and Georgia State University. And what we were trying to discover is, in this world where it is so difficult for so many children to become fully literate, we needed to have other options besides the model that is currently invested in. So while it is fantastic to keep building schools, to keep training teachers, keeping in mind that somewhere around 90% of kids in Africa spend 4 years in school and cannot read, we need to explore other options to make sure that they exit school being able to read, that every child can learn to read. And so our experiment in Ethiopia was one in which we gave children mobile devices and a curated set of very high quality apps. And we found that after a year, these children who had no access to school, who had nobody in the village who was literate, to show them how to use the tablets, had achieved about the education level as if they were attending a high quality kindergarten. So those results actually inspired the creation of the Global Learning X Prize. The Global Learning X Prize was a global competition in which groups created educational apps and competed in a real-world setting. So the 5 finalists, and I was very lucky to be a judge on those panels, the 5 finalists were implemented in a 15-month-long study in Tanzania. And the 2 winners, and I would actually include the third place person in there also, because the results were very, very, very close. But they essentially cut the number of illiterate children in that village in half. And in fact, around 35% of the kids were reaching a level of reading that we would call emerging readers. They were reading at a much higher level. And at the time that the Global Learning X Prize was going on at Curious Learning, we were working on essentially the next stage, which was how could you create a pipeline which would take all of these high-quality apps and localize them into the many hundreds of languages that kids need to learn to read in. Because the research around the world is very clear that kids become better readers when they first learn to read in their mother tongue. And in fact, they're even better at learning another language if they have first become literate in their home language. So we took the app Feed the Monster, which was also a winner of an app development contest that was sponsored by the Norwegians. And we have now localized Feed the Monster to 48 languages. Around 24 of those languages are African home languages. And so that prompted a discussion between UNESCO and ourselves, UNESCO being a crucial partner in the success of the Global Learning X Prize. Their expertise in monitoring and distribution combined with our knowledge in app creation and localization and also assessment and success of the apps, research of the apps, really creates an ideal partnership for us to begin to really push this model forward. So we are working on a partnership in which we are going to be reaching 5 African countries in the next 2 years. In each of those countries, localizing our apps to 6 languages, so that's an additional approximately 30 languages. And over the next additional 5 years, we hope to reach an additional 10 African countries. By 2025, we hope that somewhere around 120 million children in Africa will be using these apps. And we can finally break that cycle of illiteracy.
Et comment pensez-vous qu'on puisse, le mot me vient en anglais, comment on peut augmenter l'efficacité du Curious Learning dans un contexte de conflit? Beaucoup de pays africains, beaucoup de situations africaines sont des situations de tension. Je pense par exemple à ce qui se passe dans la zone sahélienne. Mais là aussi, il y a des enfants qui veulent apprendre à lire. Comment on peut améliorer l'accès pour ces enfants, y compris dans des zones de conflit? How can you improve the efficiency of the curious learning in some areas which are in war situations?
One of the
Uma das entidades para medirmos o sucesso do nosso trabalho, nós estamos aqui a desenhar, o aplicativo.
And are not only being distributed by organizations like UNESCO, but many other organizations that are working, say for instance with refugees of war or other groups, are actually handing out low-end smartphones. And if we can preload those smartphones with education apps that are in the languages that the children need, then the children have a much greater chance of being able to, first of all, learn to read in their home language, but then to be able to assimilate into the countries in which they are entering. So I think part of what we need to do is not only make apps that are easy to localize, that are lightweight, meaning they don't require a lot of data, and that in addition to that, we also have the obligation to monitor whether or not these apps are working. Are the children actually learning? And that's a crucial part of our project also, is to be monitoring the children as they're learning to read.
Monsieur Ibrahim Al-Balaoui, je le disais en
one of the pillars of your action. Can you tell us a little bit about the work you have been doing with the UNESCO? Thank you very much. Sure, when we're talking about education, this afternoon we are talking about the piece of culture, and some names. The microphone, please.